Well, as you can see by my thumbnail, that Sakura has given me permission to step away and do a video. So this is a continuance of how I plan to go forward with this conversion plan of the 36 caliber cap and ball Remingtons. Now, before I get too far into the weeds on this, there's a couple of things I want to address from the last video. And that is that, one, I incorrectly, whether it was boggled mind with all the numbers or whatever, incorrectly stated that the case diameter of a 38 special or a 357 was 371. That's incorrect. That's 379. And then the other is that you saw me go through, and this is the Pieta again, and this is the U Birdie. You saw me go through with a 375 round ball, and it would shave just fine in this. In this revolver, it did not. It more or less swaged in there, and not a good fit. So 380 in today's market, if you're going to have this kind of inconsistency, is just the way to go. When that kind of changed in the markets, who knows? I just know in the early days we never really was too concerned about that, but we'll get past that. I'm going to take and show you, this is actually a 45 Colt conversion for one of my Pietas, and I just thought I'd put that up as an example real quick. And also note that overall case dimensions or cartridge dimensions for length will be the same, whether it's for this cartridge conversion or the 36 cartridge conversion. And you do with that what you will. I'm going to utilize all that distance in my thing, and I'm strongly saying this, that you are responsible for your own actions. In my case, I know for a fact I ain't going to use anything but either black powder or black powder substitute. But I'm going to try to take advantage of all the case dimensions I can get. Now, on to the next thing. I talked about bullets I put together to test in all of my cap and ball revolvers. And to start with, I'm going to show you this guy, which is kind of reminiscent, and I wanted to try it, reminiscent of the Thompson Center Maxi Hunter. And the reason I came up with this bullet to try was I, for whatever reason, was looking at the dimensions of the Lee real bullet in 45 caliber and questioned whether it would work in a revolver. Well, it actually does, but it only works in current form, the Ruger Old Armies, and it works pretty doggone well. So I wanted to try this style of bullet in these as well, and that was targeted to be a 130 grain bullet, and it comes in at an average of 127. And then this bullet here, I told you I couldn't remember the exact weight on it, but this is the one I talked about with no grease groove. Let's get past that one. That was another targeted weight of 130, and I get an average of 132 on that. The next bullet is the one I showed you that does have a grease groove. And the targeted weight that I was going for on that when I got all said and done is 100. Well, I was shooting for a targeted weight of 136. I got an average of 138 out of them. And then finally this guy, which is my biggest of the bullets I went with for 36 caliber, is targeted to be a 150 grain bullet. I don't know if you guys are getting a good look at those or not. I can't see the camera viewfinder, no nothing, so I'm hoping. But anyway, I was targeting 150, and I got an average of 148 on them. With that, we're done. Now, I'm going to tell you right now, I decided one thing. I was debating on a gated conversion or a more traditional. At this point, I've decided I'm going to go with Kursk, more of a traditional Kursk conversion rather than gated. Two, based on what I've got here, the other decision I've made is I like cap and ball revolvers. Playing with a conversion is part of the fun of having a cap and ball. So if I line these barrels to go from shooting cap and ball to a 35-7 bore, then I've kind of defeated the purpose of having a cap and ball revolver. So my ultimate goal is to reload for the cap and ball revolver as a cap and ball revolver. That way I can always double back and forth. With that being said, that means I'm going unlined conversions. Now, exact dimensions on the inside of those unlined conversions, I don't know them yet. But in this case, I've made a decision on bullets, and I've got two bullets in mind. That one is 130 grain, and the other is 150 grain, targeted. When I get done, there'll probably be more because of the dimensions I'm going to ask for. However, just so you know, exactly what's going through my head is with that 379 diameter of the cartridge case, and I said this in the other video, I have it in my head that I can actually do this without any special steps on it. And so my dimensions that I'm going to go for on the heel is 358. I think I could push 360, but I'm not gonna. I'm going to stick with 358 to set in there. And then my drive band diameters are going to be set at 372. And again, just a quick reminder, I got 3665 on the Pieta and a 3710 on the Uberti for a bore diameter. So I'm giving it plenty of bullet. I think I'm giving myself plenty of room to get past it and set that bullet. Now, again, there's a couple things here I wanted to point out too, is I have a tendency to pick on Uberti a little bit more than Pieta because they're more inconsistent. But there is one thing I want you to notice. If you remember right, this is a standard Uberti. And if you look at the loading ram on that, and again, I'm hoping you can see it, that's the way a loading ram should look. And this is the only Pieta I've ever seen come this way. But this is the one, this one is the one I told you is called a belt model. And if you take a look at that port, that plunger sticks a solid 3/16, well, I'd say even almost 3/8 of an inch. I almost misspoke there again. Close to 3/8 of an inch below the port of the thing. So every one of these bullets in this revolver only do not roll down around underneath the rammer. Again, this is the only Pieta I've ever seen do that. So I am going to have to correct that on this. But every one of these bullets will not load around that ram. But here we go. I'm going to show you real quick my 150 grain. I'm going to set it in there. And as you can see, it sets in there just fine. Half cock and rolls around just fine. Lots of room. But if I take that same bullet over to this one, you can see, or should be able to see exactly what I'm talking about. Comes around and runs right into the plunger. So that is something I'm going to have to correct. But anyway, that's beyond what I'm talking about for a conversion. So basically the next step, and it's not going to be a fast step, but the next step is to order a custom bullet mold And let's face it, when it comes right down to it, a custom bullet mold's not cheap. But you got the choice of either paying for a liner so that you can use factory ammo and hand load for it, or order a custom mold. And for me to have the ability to go back and forth between the two, it's worth the custom mold. So basically, the first half of the video, I pretty much proved my theory correct, because again, the reason I came up with those numbers is everything I did to make these bullets was based on the cylinder diameter to begin with. And if it didn't fit in this cylinder diameter to set that heel in, it was a complete failure to me. So all my measurements came from the cylinder originally, just like you watched me do on video. I punched them out, got a measurement, and said, okay, this is the tolerance I've got. We'll go a thousandth under that, and that's what we're going to go with. That's how I came up with that number. That's why 375 didn't make any sense to me. So I had to check it. I strongly suggest that if you are considering something like this, it ain't going to hurt you to slug your bore, because these are only two examples, not the example or the standard. These are just two guns that I have that I've tested what they do. And quite frankly, that knowing what you're loading for or knowing what you got in your hand isn't a bad thing. So the first third of this was proving that the bores weren't 375. The second part is getting the bullets made and then turn around and either prove or disprove whether or not I can load these without any extra issues or problems getting it to crimp and set and be in it. And then of course the third step will be to fire them and test them for accuracy and see how well they function in the gun. And again, I'm shooting for an overall length of what I've already indicated to you. I don't know what that capacity will give me as far as the black powder situation goes. I will check that eventually. That's not my number one issue, but ultimately I'm hoping to hit a velocity that makes it worth all this effort. I'll put it that way. I have a goal in my head, but I don't know if it's fair to say it out loud at this point. So with that being said, you kind of know where I'm pursuing this. May not make sense to you, but I've been the kind of person that wonders what if. And I want to see what I can do, though it may not be exactly the same as what anybody else might do. And I'm not asking anybody to do what I'm doing, or for that matter, telling anybody that what I'm doing is the right thing to do. What I'm saying is I think a little different outside the box to get the performance I think I can get. Speaking on that, before I close this particular video out, one of the projects I've discussed before is in its closing process. I figure I'd be able to do a tabletop or some sort of reveal of what that particular project is in about 6 to 8 days, the way it's been going. I've discussed it before, but in this case I'm going to approach that one a little bit different when I reveal it too. But I'm looking forward to that one showing up on my counter. So with that, came here wearing your feelings on your sleeve, looking to get your butt hurt, you might come to the right place.